Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Denim. As a business owner myself, I personally know the importance of financial stability and preserving cash flow to help navigate through any freight market. With Denim's comprehensive service offering, you now have an all-in-one financial partner whose platform includes factoring, payments, freight audit, document collection management, and analytics, which help keep your business financially healthy and increase your team's time to focus on revenue-producing activities. You can also take advantage of Denim's free credit check, which they perform on all of your customers. And Denim will proactively reach out to you if they spot any signs of credit deterioration. Finally, Denim always pays your carriers first. As a broker, this is imperative to preserving your credit score in the market, which ultimately helps you become a broker of choice to your carrier partners. Are you ready to learn more? Visit denim.com to schedule a demo today. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It's the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, but most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. It is a very eventful week this week here. Kind of with everything going on. You guys all know what's going on out there in the market right now with the potential strike that's going to be happening out there. And, you know, I'm seeing a lot of posts that are going on about kind of what's happening out there. And I just want to give you guys some some very trusted sources that I personally follow. I mean, obviously I had Lauren Began on the show yesterday. I would pay attention to what she posts about if you want to kind of keep up to date on that. Sarah Dandan the other day, she was on here as well. I would highly recommend following her. And Steve Ferreira, he's another guy who I would highly recommend following. The JOC, you guys, JOC.com. I would go to them. And just look up, because I mean, there's just plenty of information that are out there, and I want to point you guys in the right direction to accurately follow what's going on out there and the effects that this could have. And then, you know, to boot, they got that little tropical storm going on out there, and some of the ports are being affected by that right now as well. I know some of the containers that we are supposed to offload are currently being delayed due to the port shutting down due to the tropical storm. So it is a very, very eventful week out there leading up into that. Sunny Sharma, good morning, Orange Shirt Gang. Corey Buchan, happy Thursday. Rajwant, good morning to you as well. So yeah, I wanted to bring up one article here. So a very interesting piece that comes up with this, right? Because like as we were talking with both of my guests this week, Lauren and Sarah, about, you know, the D&D detention, demurrage and detention. So an article came out yesterday about this, that the U.S. Federal Maritime Commission has thwarted a move by ocean carriers to delay new rules on who can bill for holding onto containers, saying a delay would cause greater confusion. In a decision published Wednesday, they denied the petition to delay the implementation out there. The rulemaking's biggest effect was to limit ocean carriers in sending storage and late fee bills for containers to the party who originally contracted for the ocean transportation, typically the cargo owner, or if agreed to, the cargo receivers. Truckers and other parties to container transactions hailed the move as relieving them of the risk of receiving unexpected detention and demurrage bills. However, OCEMA requested that the FMC delay that May 28th effect date due to what it was said, the confusion out there. The FMC ruled, though, that the statutory language of the rulemaking itself is clear and unambiguous. And I'm bringing that up because there's a lot, like as Lauren brought up yesterday, for example, if there is a container that is currently at a port that is in demurrage right now, which demurrage is like you're given free days, for example, right? So you got some, it's either 2 free days or 4 free days or whatever that is. And if you miss that window, the containers are in demurrage. And I brought this article up because if there is, Lauren said yesterday, and again, this was more of a guidance in the event you have a container that's in demurrage right now, you need to go in there and get that out before Monday at midnight because it could continue to accrue charges out there. Okay. So I thought that was, again, just another little reminder to all of my friends that are shippers that are watching this show or listening to this replay later. If you have any containers that are currently on the ground and in demurrage, you need to get out there and get those removed from the ports. Because it could potentially continue to accrue charges out there. And then, yeah, because and also I think it's another art. And so both of these articles are from the JOC, and then we'll get into the topic. And then also they wrote another article. Yes, this released just this morning here, that trucking races to prepare for the deadline that is going on. And then it goes on to say that the looming strike of the East Coast port, it says talking about pre-pulling, and that's what it is. Obviously, you're given those free days, so you can go in there and pre-pull all of those containers. And rising outbound spot truckload volumes from ports are expected to tighten capacity. If the ILA, the International Longshoremen Association, stops work for more than 4 days, that would jolt the trucking industry into a track for pricing recovery, said Jeff Tucker of Tucker Worldwide. Truckload spot rates have been bouncing along the bottom as they hit last year. 2024, contract rates appeared to have arrested their downslide, and they are signs that the rates could turn up again, perhaps the fourth quarter, but most likely next year. We saw a big spike in containers earlier this month. It said the biggest thing in the market is in the short term is space. Exporters need to keep producing goods for international customers, may need more warehousing space to store that inventory during the strike. So when the ports open up, their goods are available. So, I look at what's going on right now. Again, I don't want anything bad to happen. I'm not advocating for anything bad to happen, but I live in reality, ladies and gentlemen, and in the real world, shit happens, right? So how are you preparing for this right now? You're going to be tasked with finding solutions for your customers. Okay. You really are. That might be warehousing space. That might be storage. That might be something along those lines. Right. So it's like, I think that in a time like this, it is more long-term for you to focus on what you can do in your business, what you can control. Don't get overly consumed about kind of what's going on out there right now. And, again, use this show as a resource, you guys. So if your customers are coming to you and they need short-term storage that's going on out there, and then especially if you're in the Southeast, right, or really anywhere, my guy, Matt Fain, he's been on this show numerous times with Pop Capacity. He does just that, okay? He does just that. So if you guys need a resource out there for the last minute to try and find something like that, or you know what, that might even be a storage thing as well for actual product, short-term warehousing, long-term warehousing, hit up Matt Fain. And then also in regards to, like the actual product and storing that actual product, I've had some good guys on here, with Drage Insights. We've had a podcast out there about that. And then I personally move a decent amount of containers out of the Port of Savannah alone. So, I have some contacts that are out there as well. But again, you guys, we're going to have to come up with some solutions here for our customers. And then now with this, in regards to like the market. So say this does shut down everything on the East Coast and the Gulf Coast, right? Like ultimately that is going to be a major shakeup in the market, right? Because people are going to be now shifting all of their product to get it exported, right? They might have to make some last minute decisions because they got, big orders that need to be sent to their overseas clients. And now they're going to, reroute it out through LA, Long Beach, whatever that looks like, right? So if you're looking for a market shift to happen, I think that this is the event. And then especially if this is prolonged and this sits for a while, it's going to take a while to, so like, I think that the general rule of thumb, and I forget who told me this, but they work in the ocean space. They had said essentially every day that a port shut down, it takes 4 days to recover. So think about that in regards to what this could be if this is a prolonged shutdown, and what options you can get for your customers to continue to help them get their flow of goods that are going on out there. So I truly think when this happens, I don't think it's an if, I think it's when it happens. That's just what my gut's telling me, that it's going to happen. Be prepared for it. But again, like these are when those opportunities come about, you guys. It really is. Like I say all the time, everybody's good when it's easy, but are you going to step up for your customers when they need you to, right? Like I've been talking to my customers literally every single day about this. We have contingency plans in place in the event something happens, what we are going to do, where we are going to store it, how we are going to continue to operate during that time. I would hope you guys have done that already, but if you haven't done that, please start right now. Contingency plans, find out what are all and just put something in place, you guys, because again, anybody can do this job when it's easy. Chandler, Next Exit Logistics, let's go. He says, listening from the car, I can make more comments before the show ends. Basically, you can say whatever you need to. I can't argue with you. Oh, man. My man. I love it. But, with that being said, we're going to just kind of shift into the show's topic here today. And that's, growing in a down market, right? And, I always talk about what's going on in my business. And I just, because I'm actually moving freight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not just a pretty face. I am but I am actually cold calling shippers every single day. I am doing this work, right? I'm not just talking about it. And, on top of that, what we're hearing out here. So, I've talked about how we, essentially wasted, I don't want to say wasted 15 months because we had a little success, but, our ROI from our business development efforts has exponentially increased by just going back to cold calling, site visits, stuff like that. And, again, did this lead to a windfall of freight and now all of a sudden we're going to buy a Ferrari? No, that's not the case. But like from a business development standpoint, me personally, we get so much more information and like quality conversations than by just like picking up the phone and talking to people, right? And my whole sales approach is almost a non-sales approach. I'm not begging anybody for business, right? I'm going in there with a plan. I want to find out more about their operations, and I know enough about a lot of the the full truckload space to where I can tailor my questions that way. But again, making cold calls is the greatest ROI that I think you can get, especially when you pair that up with going to do site visits and everything else. I think that you're going to get a lot further along with your prospects during that time. And that's how we grew in these last 12. So we just finished our second year in fiscal year, right? So like with SPI, I'm an agent with SPI, and I would highly recommend, if any of you guys are in the market for making any changes at all, and you're thinking about becoming an agent, hit up SPI, you guys. I cannot speak highly enough about them. Yes, they advertise on my show, but I actually have my business through them as well, and they are above advertised. All right, I'll say that. And if you want to have a candid conversation about it, hit me up. I'll gladly talk to anybody off the air about this as well. But we are we grew a lot. Like I think it was like almost 200% growth between year 1 and year 2, and there's a direct line item on our P&L that shows exactly when we shifted away from just emailing people, because that's what we did, right? And we were just doing email. And then the only success we had via email, and I'll put this out, is when we created little videos and attached those to it. That's how we landed a couple of our shippers that we're still working with today through email. But there's a direct, almost to the month correlation of when we just switched to primary cold call and site visits in where our growth trajectory truly took off. And I can't stress that enough out there, you guys. Our growth came from going back to the basics and staying in the basics. And that's where we're going to continue to operate, right? Like, I know, yes, technology, AI, all of that shit. I get all the DMs all the time, every single time I talk about this, all right? I understand what you are getting at, okay? I do. I fucking read, you guys. All right. Like I'm not just sitting up here and spouting off. Like I research this stuff a lot. And for where my business is from an infrastructure standpoint, from where my P&L stands today, we are going to continue to rely on cold calling and site visits from a business development standpoint, because it worked and it's working right now, right? The amount of RFPs we've been invited to due to cold calling, is a massive improvement between when we weren't cold calling, right? So again, I look at it from an opportunities perspective. I look at it from a ROI on our time. It is exponentially better by doing this, all right? This is how we have grown in a down market, right? When everybody else out there is complaining about how hard it is, and again, it is, but guess what, you guys? It's always hard, all right? It's always going to be hard. There's a direct correlation to that. And just going back to the fundamentals. Yes, we are servicing these. We are providing like our communication, our ability and how we operate is really what sets us apart, right? Because ultimately selling is the easy part. Anybody can say the right things on the phone, but the execution piece of it is where your real value comes in. And that is how we've been able to turn some of our prospects into customers and then turn them into a pretty high volume shippers with us at this point, right? And it has a lot to do with, going down to the fundamentals and the basics of it, and then just picking up that phone and doing it. And you can't automate that. And I never will, right? Ultimately, I'll never automate that portion of my business. I believe in automation to a point, but I won't do that going forward. So it's like, for me, if you're out there and you're trying to develop business right now, go back to the basics, you guys. And again, just be yourself. It's so easy to sit up here and say that, right? But there is no perfect thing to say on the phone, right? Because what works for some of my calls gets hung up on other calls, right? But again, I know that long-term, me getting out there, having more conversations, paying attention to what your prospects and your customers are telling you when you're talking to them on the phone, and then you're making a little change every single time, right? And I'm not saying blow up what you're saying. I'm not saying change your entire approach or anything like that, but you need to make calls to get the real feedback on where your pitch is and where things are and what your prospects are going after, right? Like I say all the time, you need to choose a niche and you need to stay inside of that niche, because the more and more you call building materials, the more and more you realize what every building material shipper actually needs, or every building material customer actually needs. Same thing in food, same thing in plastics. It doesn't matter, right? Ultimately, you need to do that. And for you to get better at making calls, you need to make calls, right? It's as simple as that. You're going to suck. You're going to forget what you're going to want to say on the phone. You're going to brain freeze. You're not going to know how to respond in certain situations. But guess what? That's how you learn. All right. Ultimately, that's how you learn. And, I think some other, fundamentals to kind of talk about here is, really structuring out your day. Okay. Because that's another thing that when you go out on your own, or when you all of a sudden start to do anything, right? Like you're going to have nothing, nothing, nothing. Then you're going to get a little bit of a response, right? It might be quotes, it might be loads. Then you're going to feel super overwhelmed in that moment because you've never had this happen before. And then you're going to mess some things up, and then you're going to learn, right? And then it's going to calm back down for you. You're going to get back into your routine. Then you're going to get a bunch of freight, new customer, all that stuff. You're going to be completely disheveled. And then you're going to have to go back down to the basics. And then that's just how this actually works, right? It's not just because you started a business in an LLC that all of a sudden you're entitled to success. All right. You got to create a process, and that process needs to be fluid on like the outer edges, right? Because you're going to go through that. And especially if you're a solo operator and then you go in and then you start hiring people on top of that, you need to be very fluid in that, but you need to have your core things that are non-negotiable every single day. And for me, my number one non-negotiable thing outside of this show is making my cold calls. All right. I will make no less than 30 cold calls every single day. It does not matter if I have 15 loads moving. It doesn't matter if I have 4 site visits that I'm doing that day. I hold myself accountable to making my calls every single day, no matter what. And now this was not always that way. Okay. I built up to that because just like with everybody, I'm a real human being. And I started off with just 5. When I was getting back into making cold calls again, I started off with just making 5, right? Because again, I was overwhelmed. That was a brand new task on top of everything else that I do in a day that I needed to hold myself accountable to. And then I built up from there. And now 30 is a very respectable number that I know is moving the needle in my business. And then we'll eventually bump that up, right? Like I'll get up to probably 40 here in the next couple of weeks. But this is where I'm at. And I'm building that up in there because I do more than just this, right? Like I do this show. I meet with my marketing guy. And then we plan that out. I do a bunch of stuff, right? So it's like that is just where I have found my point where I can hold myself to that number, and I know that that's moving the business forward. Okay. So I think as you're going on out there, you got to structure that. I believe in earlier than later in the day making calls, right? So it's like I usually attack the East Coast first and then work my way back to the West Coast, because being out West here, I can start that, right? Like I'm usually starting in my office between 6 and 6:30 every single day. And then by 7 o'clock my time, I'm going to start making East Coast cold calls, right? And I might only have time to get 5 in, right? 5 or 10 in before I do my show. It just depends on what's going on out there. And then I'll do that, and then I will jump back into it. Now, if you don't have anything else going on in your day and your job is to just cold call, start early and get after it. Because I have personally found the later in the day I wait to make my calls, the grumpier people seem. All right. And that's probably because they just already got 17 other calls that day and they all sucked. Right. So just from my perspective, start early and hold yourself to it and get your calls in, because I have just personally found, not everywhere, right, but the majority of the time, it's harder to get a hold of somebody later on in the day, at least during the week, at least from my perspective. I'm sure somebody else out there has some opinion on all of that. But those are just some of those things that I kind of hold myself accountable to here. Okay. And I think like it's just been, it's glorified out there about starting a business, being an entrepreneur, doing all of that. It's glorified out there. Like I just like with most people, when I first started my business in 2020, just like everybody, I thought I was going to be a millionaire within like a month, right? Like 30 days, I was going to be a millionaire. Well, it's been 4 years and I'm still not a millionaire. But I am working harder now than I did when I first started, because I realized how much time I wasted early on. Because, really, I didn't waste any time because I was paying my dues. I was figuring out how this goes, right? Because most people, when you go into an organization and you start, you have a structure for you already. You have everything done for you already. You just need to plug in and start dialing or start moving, whatever that looks like. And when you're going out there and starting on your own, you have to create all of this stuff. And that's why it's like, I see such a rise in the talk about being, owning your own business, or even being a freight agent, for example. And I love it, right? And I will say this: if you want to do it for yourself, go out there and do it. Scratch that itch. But the reality is, no one is coming to do any work for you. All right, and that's what's left off of all of these posts about entrepreneurship and everything out there. All right, is what's left off of all the financial freedom, all the work life, all that bullshit. What's left off is nobody is there to hold you accountable. Nobody is there to build your processes. Nobody is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I see your calls are down. Why?" No one's doing that. Nobody is coming to save you. When you go out on your own, when you put every dollar on the line, when you take that chance on yourself, the reality is it is going to be way harder than you think. All right? It is going to be way harder than you think it is. And you need to understand that before you go out there, right? Before you take that leap and walk away from that salary or whatever it is that you're going. And again, if you want to do it, go for it. I'm not trying to stop anybody from going after what they want in life. But I want to paint an actual picture of what it really looks like. All right. Because there's a lot of time of you sitting there spinning your wheels, thinking like, I got to do everything differently. This isn't working. And then you pivot way too many times. Then you get in your own head and then you quit because it's not what you thought it was. And then you just go back. Right. And you don't have to. Right. Like you need to attack this for what it is, because this is an actual business. This is an actual company that you're trying to build, and nobody is building out these processes for you. Nobody is building these systems out there for you. Nobody is going to create your own discipline for you but you. And I would really focus in on that early on. All right. Hold yourself accountable. Set those metrics. All right. Because it's just you. All right. It's just you holding yourself accountable to those metrics. And that's exactly what you need to do out there. Okay. Because more times than not, you're going to get told no. More times than not, people aren't going to want to work with you. They're going to hang up the phone on you, all of that stuff. You need to accept that, and you need to develop that, that thick skin for that, And I saw this quote, and I actually wrote this quote down. Alex Hermosi, another person I would highly recommend you guys following out there. I saw this the other day, and I wrote this down because this really resonated with me. He said, to win in business, you need to be able to say no without remorse, and hear no without a loss of enthusiasm, because it does not matter what business it is. Everybody gets told no a lot more than they get told yes. All right. So take all of this for what it's worth, you guys. Again, I like to kind of come in here and again, just speak out my reality on what's working for me inside of my business, and know that, it's coming from somebody who's, actually in it, and not just kind of like talking about it, right? Because I love being an agent. It's phenomenal. I will always be an agent for SPI. I won't switch. I've been offered to, but I won't do it. SPI, my love for SPI is way deeper than anybody could. Like, it's not bought. It can't be bought, because they believed in me before fucking anybody believed in me. But the reality is, you guys, is all the tools that SPI provides us, it's still on me to develop my business, right? So it's like, as everybody goes on out there, and if you want to become an agent, if you want to build a book of business, if you want all of that financial freedom, that work, all, and it's all very attainable, you have to hold yourself accountable to developing that business, to growing your customers, to doing that, because nobody's going to do that for you. Okay. And I think you need to very much be aligned with that before you go out there and do it, because there are great agent programs that are out there. And maybe you don't want to be an agent. Maybe you want to go out and start your own business, and you can do that too. And that's all applicable to if you want to go out and start your own brokerage on your own as well. You're going to hit that point where you're going to realize, shit, nobody's coming to feed me business. Nobody cares about my business but me. I have to work relentlessly to build that up and do that. All right. Because that's the reality of what it is out there. But again, you guys, if you want to become an agent, hit up SPI. They're the only agent that I would recommend, hands down. They are better than advertised. All right. I will say that undoubtedly, as all of my advertisers on top of that. And I know anybody could sit here and say, oh, you're just saying that, but that's not the case at all. I use green screens literally every single day inside of my operation. All right. Alex Hormozi, Hormozi, I believe. Alex Hormozi. He's got a couple of really good books out there that he's read, or not read, excuse me, wrote. And then he's got a podcast as well on iTunes and Spotify. I listen to that a lot as well. It's called The Game. Yeah, and it's Alex Hormozi, Hormozi. I follow him. He's on all over social media. He's built real businesses and sold them. He's got great content out there. He's somebody who I follow. I also follow Andy Frisella, and I also follow Ed Milet. And that's kind of like the extent of the people that I'll follow for business and life stuff is those three. I've kind of reduced it down to just that, because those are the people who work for me the most. And yeah, but that's going to be it for today, you guys. Hit them all up. Hit up Denim too. Make sure you let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Hit up Ty. Let them know, Ty Software. Let them know that the Freight Coach sent you, you guys. If you guys want to support the show in any way, hit up my advertisers and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. All right. That really helps. Subscribing to the show, sharing it out there, ranking it on iTunes and Spotify. That really helps as well. All right. But that's going to be it for today. We got tomorrow. We're going to have Financial Friday on the show. We're going to talk. We got some really good topics. My friends at Denim, Mr. Sean Smith is going to be back on the show because we do a monthly Financial Friday. And with that, we're going to talk about aging invoices and a bunch of stuff about working with your customers and just more about how to improve the financial health of your business. But yeah, be back for tomorrow at that 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. As always, thank you guys for everything. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.